Ryan was a quiet man who worked as an engineer on the frontier planet Orin 4. The world was rough and forgotten, filled with dust storms and old ruins left behind by miners decades ago. Most humans had left the planet after its resources ran dry, but Ryan stayed. He enjoyed the silence. He repaired old machines, communication towers, and power lines for travelers who sometimes passed through. To him, peace meant work without noise or orders. One morning, while checking a damaged relay tower near the eastern ridge, Ryan picked up strange signals. They were not natural. The tone was rhythmic, like coded distress calls. The source came from deep under the ground, far from any human settlement. He checked the map. The signal came from an area marked as restricted. That label alone made him curious. He prepared his rover, packed tools, and set out before dawn. The desert stretched far and quiet. Metallic dust shimmered like tiny mirrors under the twin suns. By noon, he reached a rocky canyon with rusted metal structures half buried in the sand. The air smelled like ozone and fuel. There, the signal grew stronger. Ryan found an old mining shaft sealed with steel gates. The surface bore marks of recent use. He scanned for power and found a faint energy pulse still active underground. That meant someone was using it. He crouched, removed a panel, and hacked into the console. The code was advanced but not human. It had alien language mixed with trade code. He bypassed the lock and entered the mine. Inside, the air was damp and hot. Faint lights flickered through the tunnels. He moved quietly, his boots echoing on metal floors. The deeper he went, the stronger the humming of machines became. Then he stopped. Voices. He heard rough shouts and the sound of chains striking stone. He hid behind a crate and looked down from an upper walkway. The sight below froze him. Dozens of alien workers were chained together, digging at rock walls glowing faintly blue. Their bodies were thin, their clothes torn, and their faces hollow with exhaustion. Guards patrolled nearby, wearing black armor with orange lights on their helmets. They carried shock batons and heavy rifles. Ryan's heart pounded. The logo on the guard's shoulders read Orin Syndicate. He had heard of them, one of the largest illegal trade groups in the outer systems. They captured and sold living beings, treating them as resources. He thought the stories were rumors. Now he saw the truth. He stayed hidden until night cycle. When the guards changed shift, he crept closer. He studied the layout: security drones, watchtowers, electric fences, and a control hub near the center. He saw how the aliens worked in groups, always under watch. One alien, tall with silver skin and bright yellow eyes, moved slower than others. A guard struck him with a baton. The alien did not fight back. Ryan clenched his fists. He retreated quietly to the surface and sat near his rover. The stars shone above, cold and silent. He told himself it was not his fight. He was one man. He had no weapons, no army, and no authority. But when he closed his eyes, he remembered the alien's face. The same look he had seen in refugees years ago. People trapped with no one to help them. He could not forget it. The next day, Ryan returned to his cabin and started building small devices. He designed signal jammers, EMP grenades, and a handheld transmitter that could override the mine's security gate. He knew it would not be enough for a full rescue, but it could give the slaves a chance to escape. He studied the syndicate's communication frequencies and learned their shift patterns through intercepted data. Each night he planned more carefully. A week later, he returned to the mine with a plan. He hid during the day and moved only at night. He watched the same silver-skinned alien, who seemed to be respected by others. When the guards left to eat, Ryan approached him through the shadows. "Don't shout," Ryan whispered. The alien turned sharply, eyes glowing in the dim light. "Who are you?" "Someone who wants to help," Ryan said. "I can open the gates. I can disable their control collars." The alien studied him for a moment. "Many have promised help before. All died." "I'm not promising survival," Ryan replied. "Only a chance." The alien hesitated, then gave a faint nod. "My name is Taryn." "Ryan," he said. "Tomorrow night, be ready." That night, Ryan stayed hidden near the power grid. He placed jammers at key points and mapped every exit. He saw how Taryn and others whispered quietly, passing signals down the tunnels. Hope flickered among them. The guards noticed nothing. When the artificial sun dimmed and the alarm signaled sleep time, Ryan made his move. He crawled to the main control room. 2 guards sat there watching monitors. Ryan threw a small EMP grenade. The lights flickered, and the guards fell as their suits overloaded. He moved quickly, typing into the console. The slave collars were linked through the power grid. He started rewriting the control code. Then he froze. The system required a master override key. Without it, the collars would stay active. Ryan cursed under his breath. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him. Terran stood in the doorway carrying a stolen rifle. "You said you could free us," Terran said. "I can, but I need their key," Ryan answered. "It should be with their commander." Terran nodded. "I know where it is." They moved together through the tunnels. Alarms started to sound. The EMP had drawn attention. Ryan and Terran ran, ducking behind crates as shots echoed. The commander, a tall creature with a reptilian crest, shouted orders in harsh language. Drones buzzed overhead. Terran pointed to a high tower near the landing pad. "He keeps the key there." Ryan and Terran sprinted toward it. Guards opened fire. Sparks flew as bullets hit metal walls. Ryan slid behind a barrel, took out another grenade, and rolled it across the floor. The explosion filled the hallway with smoke. They climbed the tower stairs, panting. Inside the office, the commander turned, his armor shining red. "A human?" he snarled. "You will regret this." Ryan aimed his tool pistol but was knocked aside. The commander struck him hard, sending him against a console. Terran charged, swinging a metal rod. The commander caught it and pushed him back. The fight was fierce and desperate. Ryan grabbed a live wire from the broken wall and jammed it into the commander's armor. Electricity crackled and the alien fell. Smoke filled the room. Ryan searched the desk and found a small crystal key glowing blue. He inserted it into his handheld transmitter. "It's done," he said. Back in the tunnels, every collar flashed once and powered down. The slaves froze, staring at the lights on their necks fading away. Chains fell to the floor. Silence lasted only a moment before cheers filled the mine. The guards panicked as dozens of aliens rushed them. Ryan and Terran ran to the control room and opened the main gates. The desert wind roared through the tunnels, carrying the sound of freedom. Ships that once belonged to the Syndicate were now in the aliens' hands. They escaped into the night sky one by one. As the last ship lifted off, Terran looked back at Ryan. "You freed us," he said. "Why risk your life for strangers?" Ryan wiped the dust from his face. "Because no one else would." The alien nodded slowly. "Then you are not like the others." Ryan watched the stars as the ships vanished. The mine behind him burned, the Syndicate base in ruins. He knew they would come for him once word spread. But he felt calm. For the first time in years, he had done something that mattered. He climbed into his rover and drove toward the horizon. The morning suns rose, painting the sky gold and red. In the quiet hum of his engine, Ryan smiled faintly. Somewhere out there, hundreds of lives were free again, and though he did not know it yet, their next choice would change his life forever. The suns of Orin 4 were rising when Ryan returned to his cabin after the rescue. The small metal home stood alone on a dry plain surrounded by wrecked machines and silent windmills. He moved slowly as his injuries ached, but his mind was alive with thoughts of what had happened. The images of the freed aliens flying into the sky were fresh in his mind, yet his heart felt heavy. He knew the Syndicate would not forgive him for destroying one of their minds. For 3 nights, he stayed hidden. He kept the lights off and scanned all radio channels. The Syndicate ships passed above the desert again and again, searching for the man who had broken their slave operation. Every time he heard the sound of engines, he waited under the floor of his cabin holding his small blaster. He had no one to call for help, and no government on this forgotten world cared about what happened here. When the sky finally cleared and silence returned, Ryan started to plan what came next. He knew the aliens who escaped would need somewhere safe to go. They had no supplies, no food, and no ships large enough for long travel. He needed to find them before the Syndicate did. That evening, a faint signal reached his receiver. It was weak and full of static, but he caught the words, "Ryan, we are safe." The voice was deep and slow. It was Terran. The signal came from a mountain range far north. Ryan packed food, water, and his tools and drove through the night. The journey took almost a full day. He climbed through narrow canyons until he saw a small light inside a cave. When he entered, the air was warm and filled with the low sound of alien voices. Terran stood near a fire surrounded by other freed workers of many species. Some had blue skin. Others had scales or fur, but all shared the same tired expression of beings who had suffered too long. Terran stepped forward and placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. "You came We were not sure you would. I promised I would help, Ryan said. But you must move soon. The syndicate will search every desert and mountain. The group fell silent. A smaller alien named Mira asked, "Where can we go? We have no home. All our worlds were destroyed or taken." Ryan looked at the flickering light on the cave wall. "Then we make one," he said. "There is an old shipyard near the coast. It was used by miners long ago. If we repair the ships there, you can leave this planet together." The aliens began to murmur with hope and fear. Terran studied Ryan for a long time. "You risk everything for us." "Why?" Ryan shook his head. "Because someone must stand against them." They traveled that night in secret. Terran's people moved quietly across the desert, leaving no tracks. Ryan used his rover to carry the injured. The journey was long, but the stars guided them. They reached the coast after 3 days. The shipyard was half buried in sand, but the hangars still stood. A dozen broken cargo ships lay rusting inside. Ryan began his work at once. He connected the generators and started the fusion lines. He taught the aliens how to repair panels and weld hulls. Each day they grew stronger. Together they built a small community inside the empty hangars. Fires burned at night and laughter slowly. Returned during the evenings, Ryan sat with Terran on the roof, watching the sea. The alien leader spoke of the past. "Before the syndicate came, my people lived on a forest world. We built towers from stone and glass. We sang to the stars. We believed peace would last forever." He paused. "But peace does not protect you when others want power." Ryan nodded. "Humans made the same mistake again and again. We also learned too late that freedom is never free." Terran looked at him with curiosity. "Humans fought for their own freedom too." "Many times," Ryan said, "but most people now have forgotten that fight. I guess I still remember." The days turned into weeks. The ships slowly came alive. One after another, they lit their engines. For the first time in years, the aliens cheered each success. Ryan worked until his hands were raw. He knew the syndicate could appear at any moment, so every hour mattered. Then one night, Mira ran into the hangar breathing hard. "Ships are coming. From the south, 3 syndicate patrols." Ryan dropped his tool and turned off the lights. "Hide everyone. Move the working ships out of sight behind the ridge." The aliens rushed to obey Ryan, and Terran climbed to the lookout and saw red lights moving across the sky. The syndicate patrols were scanning for energy signals. Ryan quickly jammed the radar frequency using one of his homemade devices, but the ships kept closing in. They would soon find the hangar. Terran looked at him. "We cannot fight them all." Ryan's eyes moved to the old cargo ship at the far end of the yard. It was broken beyond flight, but its power core still worked. "Maybe we don't have to fight them directly," he said. "We can make a trap." They worked fast. Ryan overloaded the ship's damaged reactor and linked it to a remote switch. Then they moved everyone into the tunnels under the hangar. The sound of engines grew louder as the syndicate ships landed on the sand. The wind carried the crunch of metal boots. The soldiers entered the yard, their lights sweeping across the darkness. "Search everything," the commander shouted. "Find the human." Ryan waited until the patrols gathered near the old cargo ship. Then he pressed the switch. A blinding flash filled the night. The explosion lifted sand and fire into the sky. The shockwave rolled through the valley, knocking down the patrols and throwing their ships on their sides. When the dust settled, the syndicate forces were gone. The hangar was damaged but still standing. Ryan and Terran came out from the tunnels. The aliens looked at the wreckage and then at Ryan with awe. He was covered in soot and ash, but alive. Mira smiled for the first time. "You did it again?" Ryan shook his head. "We did it together." After that night, the aliens called him the Builder, for he had built both their hope and their escape. Every being worked double shifts, repairing the remaining ships. By the end of the next week, the first small fleet was ready to leave before departure. Terran gathered everyone in the main hangar. "We owe our lives to this human," he said. "He fought with no army, no weapon of power, only his will. Let no one forget his name." Ryan felt embarrassed. "You don't owe me anything, just promise me you will stay free." Terran smiled. "We will, but freedom means nothing without purpose. We will not run forever. We must unite our people again." Ryan nodded. "Then this is just the beginning." One by one, the ships lifted off into the morning sky. The engines painted bright trails across the horizon. Ryan watched them disappear until only silence remained. He felt both proud and empty. He had given them a chance, but now he stood alone again. He turned back to his rover, preparing to return home when he saw something shining in the sand. It was a small silver emblem shaped like a star. He picked it up. It was Terran's symbol. He smiled faintly and placed it in his pocket. That night, Ryan sat outside his cabin staring at the dark sky. He wondered where they had gone and what they would do next. He did not know that the choice Terran's people were about to make would soon reach every corner of the galaxy, and it would draw Ryan once more into a battle he never wanted but could not avoid. Weeks passed on Orin 4 and life seemed calm again. Ryan repaired his cabin, worked on his rover, and tried to forget the faces of those he had freed. Yet the peace was thin and silent like the air before a storm. Every night he checked the radio, hoping to hear from Terran or Mira, but only static answered. He told himself they were far away building a new home, but deep inside he feared something had gone wrong. One cold evening, a message finally broke through the noise. The screen flickered and Terran's image appeared. His face was marked with worry. "Ryan, we have found others like us. The Syndicate has more camps across the system. They are capturing new worlds. We cannot stay hidden anymore. We must fight." Ryan leaned closer. "Fight, you mean open war?" Terran nodded. "Yes, but we need help. We have ships but no leaders and no plan. The Syndicate will crush us if we stand alone. You have seen their systems. You know their codes. Will you guide us?" Ryan stared at the screen. He had wanted to stay out of more danger, but his heart knew the answer. He had started this by freeing them. He could not stop halfway. "Send me your location, I will come." He packed his bag, loaded his tools, and set out once again. He drove for hours across the desert until he reached a wide valley. The air shimmered with energy fields, and at its center stood something new. A base built by alien hands. Ships of different shapes rested in rows, glowing under the suns. He saw aliens from many races working together, repairing weapons and armor. They had no flag, but they had one purpose. Terran met him at the gate and smiled. "You came again?" Ryan nodded. "You said you needed help. Show me what you have." Inside the base, Ryan saw the progress they had made. Terran's people had built command rooms, training grounds, and hangars out of scavenged metal. They were learning fast, but their machines were old and weak. Ryan walked through each section, studying their systems. He spoke to their engineers, showing them how to shield their engines and how to block Syndicate signals. His calm and confident way gave the aliens new hope. That night, a meeting was held in the main hall. Leaders from several freed worlds gathered around a round table. Ryan listened as they shared stories of lost homes and families. Each race had suffered under the Syndicate's greed. When the talking stopped, Terran looked at him. "Tell us what we must do." Ryan took a deep breath. "You cannot fight them head-on. They have fleets larger than all of us together, but they rely on one thing: control. They use fear and systems to keep slaves obedient. If we destroy their control centers, their fleets will fall apart. We target their communication hubs one by one. Strike fast, disappear, and make them doubt their power." The leaders murmured among themselves. One alien with green skin asked, "And who will lead these strikes?" Ryan looked around the room. "You all will, but I will show you how." Over the next few days, Ryan trained small groups. He taught them stealth tactics, sabotage, and the use of simple but effective technology. He built small drones that could disable shields and taught them how to move unseen. The aliens learned quickly. Their anger had turned into discipline. Soon the first mission was ready. The target was a Syndicate outpost orbiting a nearby moon. It controlled slave transport routes. Ryan joined the crew of one small ship piloted by Mira. She was nervous but determined. If we fail, they will hunt us to the ends of the stars, she said. Then we do not fail, Ryan replied. The journey through space was silent and tense. The stars glowed through the glass as the ship approached the moon. The outpost looked like a ring of metal spinning slowly above the gray surface. Its lights pulsed red and white. Ryan studied it through a screen. Their power core is in the lower section. We hit it from below and leave before they know what happened. Mira nodded. Understood as they drew closer. Terran's voice came through the radio. All ships ready, move on my mark. The small fleet of 6 ships glided through the darkness. Their engines were silent and shields dimmed. Ryan's hands moved over the controls he disabled, the outpost's radar, and opened the docking bay. They entered unseen. The hallways inside were narrow and cold. The walls hummed with energy. Ryan led the way carrying his toolkit. He found the main console and connected his device. Sparks flew as he bypassed the locks. Alarms started to ring. He shouted, "They know we are here. Go to the escape route." Mira and the others planted charges along the walls. Soldiers appeared firing plasma rounds, the air filled with flashes of blue light. Ryan grabbed a fallen guard's weapon and covered the team as they retreated. He hit the last switch and the countdown began. They ran through the corridor as explosions shook the floor. They reached the ships and launched just as the outpost burst apart in a bright wave of fire. The blast lit the moon's surface like daylight. Terran's voice echoed through the radio. The outpost is destroyed. The route is free. We did it. Cheers filled every channel. For the first time, the Syndicate had lost control of a sector. The victory spread quickly across the stars. Other enslaved worlds heard the news and began to rise. Ryan watched the celebrations, but his face stayed calm. "This is only the beginning," he said. Over the next months, more strikes followed, each one planned carefully, each one cutting another piece of the Syndicate's network. Ryan became the silent mind behind the rebellion. The aliens started calling their group the Free Systems Union. They built a symbol from metal shaped, like a rising sun, and painted it on every ship. But victory came with danger. The Syndicate grew desperate. They sent fleets to crush the rebels. They captured planets that supported them and spread fear through propaganda. Ryan knew they were preparing something large. He called a meeting with Terran and Mira. "They will attack soon. We cannot match their numbers. We must make them think we are stronger than we are." Terran frowned. "How?" Ryan smiled slightly. "By showing them what they fear, the most unity." He explained his plan. The Union would send messages to every known world declaring that the human who freed the slaves had built an army of thousands. The Syndicate's spies would hear it and panic. They would move their forces too fast and leave their supply lines open. Then the Union would strike those lines, not the fleets themselves. It worked. The Syndicate commanders began pulling ships from one sector to another, chasing false reports. The rebellion hit their transports, destroyed their stations, and vanished before they could react. The galaxy started to believe that the human named Ryan was leading an unstoppable force, though in truth, they had only a few hundred fighters. Still, the Syndicate refused to admit defeat. They deployed a massive command ship called the Serpent's Crown. It was large enough to block out a moon and armed with weapons that could melt cities. When Ryan saw its image on the screen, he knew this battle would decide everything. He gathered the leaders once more. "If we destroy that ship, the Syndicate will lose control for good, but it will not be easy. Its shields are too strong for direct attack. We must disable its heart from the inside." Mira looked worried. "That means boarding." Ryan nodded. "Yes, I will go with a small team. Terran, you lead the fleet outside to draw their attention." The plan was set. The next day, the stars above Orin 4 burned bright as the battle began. The Union fleet charged forward, firing at the massive enemy ship, while Ryan's small team slipped through the chaos. Their shuttle latched onto a maintenance port. They entered quietly, moving through steel corridors filled with alarms. Inside the ship, Ryan found the central power core glowing. With white light, he placed the explosives and linked them to a timer. But before he could leave, a group of Syndicate guards surrounded them. Terran's voice came through the radio. "We cannot hold much longer, Ryan. You must hurry," Ryan shouted. "Back almost done, hold the line." The guards advanced, but the team fought fiercely. Mira covered him while Ryan finished the last connection. Then they ran as the timer counted down. The explosions tore through the Serpent's crown from within. Fire erupted from its hull. The entire ship split apart, sending debris across space. The Syndicate fleet broke formation and fled. When the dust cleared, the Union ships surrounded the burning wreck. They had done it. The greatest symbol of Syndicate. Power was gone. Ryan watched the wreckage from the bridge of Mira's ship. His face was tired, but his eyes were steady. "It's over for now," he said. Terran appeared on the screen, smiling. "You gave us freedom again, Ryan. The galaxy will remember. This day." Ryan looked out at the stars. "Then let's make sure it means something real this time." The rebellion had begun as a spark, but now it burned like a sun spreading across systems. The Syndicate was falling apart, and the freed races were rising for the first time in generations. And in the heart of it all was one quiet human whose courage had turned despair into hope. The war against the Syndicate slowly ended, but the scars of battle remained across every world. The Free Systems Union now stood as a new power built from those once enslaved. Their ships patrolled trade routes, and their banners flew proudly over planets that had known only fear. Ryan had become a name spoken with deep respect, yet he never saw himself as a hero. He still lived simply working beside the people he had freed, helping them rebuild broken worlds. One morning, Terran arrived at Ryan's outpost. The alien leader wore a robe made from silver threads, and his yellow eyes glowed softly. "The Council of the Union wishes to meet you," he said. Ryan looked up from his tools. "Why they have their leaders now, I am only an engineer," Terran smiled. "You are more than that. The Union exists because of you. They want you to stand before them." Ryan sighed but nodded. He followed Terran aboard a shuttle that lifted from the surface and flew through the calm skies toward the new Union capital built on a moon named Halra. The city shone with towers of white stone and blue crystal. It was unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. Wide streets were filled with different species walking together without fear. The sound of peace filled the air. In the grand hall, the council awaited him. 12 leaders of different races sat around a shining table. Each had once led a rebellion against the Syndicate, and now they governed the new alliance. The hall was silent as Ryan entered. Terran walked beside him and stopped at the center. The head of the council, a tall being named Eris, spoke first. "Ryan the human, you gave us freedom. You fought with us when others turned away. We owe you more than words." Ryan stood straight. "You owe me nothing. I did what anyone should do when seeing injustice." Another leader said, "Your actions changed everything. The Union has become stronger than any one race alone, but we face new challenges. The Galactic Council is watching us. They fear our unity. They have sent messages demanding that we disband our fleets and accept their oversight." Ryan frowned. "You mean the same Galactic Council that ignored the Syndicate's crimes for years?" "Yes," Eris replied. "They now say we are a threat. They see our ships as weapons, not protectors. We must decide how to answer them." The room filled with quiet tension. Everyone looked at Ryan, waiting for his thoughts. He was not a politician, but they trusted his sense of right and wrong. He looked at their faces and spoke slowly. "If you bend to their pressure now, everything we built will crumble. You do not need their approval. You earned your freedom and you can defend it. The Council will test you, but stand firm, and they will respect you." Terran nodded. "I agree. But they also offered peace talks. They claim they want to understand our goals. Perhaps we should listen first." Ryan considered this. "Talks are fine as long as you know what they truly want. They will try to divide us. Promise peace while weakening your will. If you go, then go as equals, not as beggars." The council voted to send representatives to meet the Galactic Council, but they insisted Ryan join them. He refused at first, saying he was no diplomat, but Terran convinced him. "They know your name. Your presence will show them who we are. A man from a small, forgotten planet who changed history." Ryan finally agreed. A week later, he stood aboard the Union flagship Horizon watching the stars stretch into long silver lines as the ship jumped to the central hub of the galaxy. The Galactic Council station was enormous, a ring the size of a continent, filled with lights and ships from thousands of worlds. Ryan had never seen such order and grandeur. Before as they entered the docking bay, a voice from the station announced, "Welcome, representatives of the Free Systems Union. You are granted passage to Hall 7. Guards in polished armor led them through tall glass corridors. Ryan walked beside, Terran observing the aliens around them. Some stared with curiosity, others with cold suspicion. When they entered the hall, the council members of the galaxy sat in a circle wearing robes of gold. Their leader, a pale being named Saren, rose to speak. "We welcome the new union, though its rise has caused unrest across the sectors," Terran answered with calm words. "Unrest came long before us. It came from those who allowed slavery to spread." Saren's eyes narrowed. "The Syndicate acted outside our laws, but you have created an armed alliance that challenges our authority. The balance of the galaxy depends on order." Ryan stepped forward. "Order built on silence is not peace. You ignored the Syndicate until it was too late, and now you blame those who fought back." Whispers spread through the hall. Some members looked shocked while others nodded quietly. Saren glared at Ryan. "Human, you have no seat here," Ryan replied firmly. "Maybe not, but your silence gave the Syndicate their power. So yes, I will speak." Terran placed a hand on Ryan's arm but said nothing. Saren took a deep breath and sat down. "We will hear your words, but remember the laws of this hall." The meeting continued for hours. The Union demanded recognition. As a free coalition, the Galactic Council demanded disarmament. Neither side gave in. By the end of the day, the talks ended with no agreement. As Ryan and Terran left the hall, Saren's assistant approached quietly. "You should be careful. The Council fears you. Some among them are planning something." Ryan looked at her closely. "What do you mean?" "Certain worlds controlled by the Council plan to sanction your trade routes and isolate your colonies. They will try to break you without battle," she said before walking away. Back aboard the Horizon, Ryan told Terran everything. The alien leader listened, then said, "So it begins again. The same struggle, only with different faces." Ryan nodded. "Then we prepare. You cannot allow fear to break what you built." The weeks that followed were filled with tension. The Galactic Council spread false reports saying the Union was building secret weapons. Trade ships were stopped and inspected. Union colonies began to suffer shortages. Ryan worked, night and day, designing new supply routes and defensive systems. He taught engineers how to build independent power cores so the colonies could survive without outside trade. One night, while Ryan was checking the new network, Terran entered the room. "The Council wants you to take an official role. They want you to become their human representative, one who speaks for all species." Ryan looked up in surprise. "Me, I am no politician, I am just a builder." Terran smiled. "That is exactly why. They trust you. You do not seek power. They see honesty in you. You helped unite species that never spoke before. That is leadership, whether you want it or not." Ryan stayed silent for a moment, then nodded. "If it helps keep them together, I will." Except, days later, the official ceremony took place on Halra. Thousands gathered in the great plaza. Flags of many colors waved in the wind. The air was filled with music from dozens of species. Ryan stood on a high platform wearing a simple coat of gray. The leaders placed a golden emblem on his chest, the mark of the Union representative. The crowd cheered his name. When the ceremony ended, Terran approached him. "You are now the voice of the Union. What will you say to the galaxy?" Ryan looked at the Horizon. "I will tell them the truth, that we seek no war, that we only want a galaxy where no being lives in chains." His words spread quickly across every communication channel. Some worlds praised him while others called him dangerous, yet his message inspired millions. Freedom had found a voice that spoke plainly without anger or greed. As the sun set over Halra, Ryan walked alone through the quiet streets. He thought of the long path that brought him here from the empty deserts of Orin 4 to the heart of the galaxy. He had never wanted glory, but fate had placed him in its light. He felt the weight of every life that now looked to him for hope. Terran joined him and said softly, "You changed more than you know the Union will stand because of what you began," Ryan answered. "It will stand because of everyone who chose courage over fear." They watched the stars together, knowing that peace was fragile and that the Galactic Council would not give up easily. But for now, the Union was united stronger than ever, and the man who once freed a few slaves from a hidden mine had become the symbol of freedom for 1,000 worlds. Months passed after Ryan became the human representative of the Free Systems Union. The new alliance of worlds grew fast. Trade routes reopened, cities rebuilt, and old ruins turned into learning centers. The people trusted Ryan because he spoke with honesty, not pride. Wherever he went, crowds gathered to see him and thank him, yet he never saw himself as a ruler. He always reminded them that every free world belonged to its people, not to him. Peace seemed near, but it did not last. The Galactic Council continued to spread stories calling the Union a threat. They said humans could not be trusted and that Ryan was leading a hidden army. The Council feared that if the Union remained strong, their own control would weaken. Soon reports arrived. The Council fleets were moving closer to Union borders, pretending to be patrols but clearly preparing for war. Inside the Union headquarters, the atmosphere was tense. Terran entered the meeting room where Ryan studied a holographic map. Red lights marked enemy fleets moving from several directions. "They are closing the trade routes," Terran said. "If they continue, we will be cut off from half the sector." Ryan turned to him. "Then they want to provoke us. If we attack first, they will call us aggressors. If we stay silent, they will surround us." Mira joined the meeting and said, "We could send envoys to speak with their commanders. Maybe there is still a chance for peace." Ryan looked at her. "I will try once more, but we must prepare to defend ourselves. The Union was built to protect freedom, not to start wars, but if they attack, we will stand together." That night, Ryan sat alone on the balcony of the command tower watching the stars above Halra. The sky was full of ships guarding the planet. His thoughts went back to the mine on Orin 4 where it had all begun. He remembered the faces of those first freed workers. He had acted then because he could not watch injustice. Now the same feeling returned, but this time, the whole galaxy was watching. The next morning, a message arrived from the Galactic Council, inviting Ryan to appear before them once more. They said they wanted peace, but demanded that the Union reduce its fleets and hand over control of its stations. Terran called it a trap, but Ryan decided to go. "If we refuse, they will call us rebels," he said. "If I go and tell the truth, maybe the galaxy will finally listen." Terran placed a hand on his shoulder. "If you go, they might arrest you or worse," Ryan smiled faintly. "Then let them see what a human stands for." The journey to the council station was silent. The Union fleet escorted him halfway before turning back. When his ship docked, he was met by guards who led him to the same great hall, where he had spoken months before the council chamber was full. The leaders of hundreds of worlds were watching from tall seats. The air was heavy with expectation. Saren, the council leader, stood. "Ryan of Earth, you have come again. We respect your courage, but your Union grows too powerful. You claim peace, yet you build armies and fortresses. We must act to protect the balance." Ryan looked around the hall. "You speak of balance, but where was your balance when the Syndicate ruled? When thousands were taken as slaves, you said nothing. Now that those people are free, you call them dangerous." Saren frowned. "You do not understand the greater order of the galaxy. We maintain peace through control. If every world acts alone, chaos follows." Ryan raised his voice. "Peace built on fear is not peace, it is silence forced by power. The Union will not live under chains again. We will defend ourselves if we must, but we will not bow." The hall filled with noise. Some delegates clapped, others shouted. For silence, Saren struck his staff on the floor. "Then you declare defiance against the council." Ryan's voice stayed calm. I declare that freedom belongs to all, not just those sitting in high towers. Guards began to move forward, but one council member from a neutral world stood up. Enough. This human speaks truth. The syndicate thrived because we were silent. If we punish the Union now, we repeat our mistakes. The debate grew intense. Many members argued and some walked out. The broadcast spread across thousands of worlds. Citizens everywhere watched the human standing alone against the council. For many, he became a symbol of courage. For others, he became a warning at last. Saren ended the session. You will return to your Union, but know this. The council will act to preserve order. We cannot allow independent powers to rise unchecked. Ryan left the hall surrounded by guards. He returned to his ship and departed quietly. As the stars appeared once more outside the window, he felt a deep sadness. The dream of peace seemed farther than ever. Yet he also felt hope because he had seen doubt in the eyes of some council members. The truth had reached them. When he returned to Halra, the people greeted him as a hero. Crowds filled the streets chanting his name, but Ryan raised his hands for silence. Do not cheer for me, he said. Cheer for your freedom and protect it, because it is the most precious thing you will ever have. Later that night he met Terran and Mira in the council chamber. They will come for us soon, he said. We must prepare, but not just with weapons. We must win the hearts of the galaxy. If we show them that we stand for justice, not conquest, they will see who truly seeks war. Terran nodded. You are right. We will send aid to worlds in need, even to those under council rule. Let them see the difference between our actions and their words. Under Ryan's guidance, the Union launched missions to help starving colonies rebuild planets and protect trade for all species. Their fleets no longer only fought battles, they delivered supplies and saved lives. The galaxy began to change. People from many worlds started to question the Council's motives. The more they saw the Union helping others, the more support grew. Months later, reports reached the Council that their own member worlds were joining the Union. The leaders panicked and called for emergency meetings, but it was too late. The idea of freedom had spread faster than they could control it. It was no longer Ryan's fight, it was the will of the people. Still, Ryan knew that peace could not last without truth. He decided to make one final act. He prepared a broadcast to be sent across all networks at once. His message would expose the Council's hidden deals with the Syndicate before the rebellion and show their corruption to everyone. Terran tried to stop him. If you do this, they will come for you. You may not live to see what follows. Ryan smiled. Maybe. But if I stay silent, then all this means nothing. The truth must be known. The broadcast began across every planet. Ryan appeared on screens across the galaxy. He stood in front of the Union emblem and spoke clearly. To every being who can hear me, know this. The Galactic Council knew of the Syndicate. They chose profit over justice. They call us rebels because we remind them of their failure. I do not ask you to fight for me. I ask you to stand for yourselves. No more masters. No more slaves, no more silence. His words spread like fire. The Council tried to block the signal, but it reached too many systems. Protests erupted across the stars. Entire worlds refused to obey Council orders and declared their independence. The galaxy had changed forever. Hours later, ships loyal to the old Council arrived above Halra, demanding Ryan's surrender. The Union fleet surrounded the planet, ready to fight. Terran turned to Ryan. Your words have started something unstoppable. What will you do now? Ryan looked at the stars. Now I step aside so they can build their own future. This was never meant to be my war. It was always theirs. He walked to the balcony overlooking the city. Lights from thousands of ships filled the sky. The people below cheered his name, but he knew it was not him they celebrated. It was freedom itself. The Council fleets soon withdrew, unable to fight against half the galaxy, united in spirit. The old order fell, and a new age began. Years later, stories of the human from Orin 4 spread across every world. Some called him the builder, others the speaker of truth. Statues were raised in his honor, But Ryan never sought them. He spent his final years on a quiet world, teaching young engineers how to build and repair, hoping they would never need to use those skills for war again. When he looked up at the night sky, he saw countless stars, each one free and bright. He smiled, knowing that the galaxy had changed not because of power or weapons, but because one person had refused to look away from injustice. The choice he made long ago to free a few slaves had reshaped the destiny of 1,000 worlds and had shown the universe what humanity truly meant.